I have the big sponsor list this time. So I'll talk about the Wi-Fi and that, and then maybe you'll jump up here, and then you could take it, you just go through all those, and then exhibitors, and then you can talk about the next NY-GEO. I think that's great. So, but I'll do some housekeeping kind of stuff in the Wi-Fi, and I'll do the pictures and remind people that those are being recorded, and then I'll bring you up to talk about sponsors. I don't have a slide in there for students, so. Right. All right. Day 2. The best thing about day 2 is day 1 is over. For me. Hopefully, yesterday was enjoyable for other people that are not me. The non-John people. Though it's a common name, so I apologize for other Johns that were less stressed than me. All right, I'm gonna go boink. Look at that. All right, so our opening session today, Christine and I are gonna go through just some housekeeping stuff and thank sponsors and do nice stuff like that. And then, can somebody get my fashion glasses? I have on my, every year we have to do this. But can somebody get my fashion glasses, please? They're in my bag. Anyone knows where they are. I think I look kind of dorky in these, honestly. Yeah, it's not the look I'm going for. We're going to have Venetia come up. Venetia Lannon from the NY-GEO board is how I know her, but I think she works for a company as well. And she'll introduce Vicki, and Vicki and Bill will have some nice remarks for us. Then we will have Keith Hayes, also. His main affiliation is NY-GEO board, but I guess he also has a job. And he will run through a nice panel that we put together on financing the future of thermal energy. So that's all going to be in this block, and we're just going to switch from one to the other. So it's a little bit of a hour and a half-ish kind of time frame. So let me go through a couple of basic things. Oh, by the way, I'm John Ciovacco. I'm with Aztech Geothermal, and I'm on the NY-GEO board. I was supposed to do that to start out with. Good. Thanks. There we go. The fashion glasses are now complete. Yeah, it's a big difference, isn't it? Yeah, really pops. So we've got a Wi-Fi network for those of you. Who's here for the first time today? Like you're a day 2 person, so, okay, not too many of you, but if you want to get on the Wi-Fi, that's that. I mentioned this yesterday, but any of you, there are a lot of photographs up already, so if you want to shoot that QR code while I say a few words like this, then you can go and you can see the photographs from the tours and from a lot of yesterday, and they're going to keep uploading them. We're trying to get them out as quickly as we can, so if folks want to use them for timely social media, you get that opportunity. So that's been a nice improvement, and Rachel and somebody named Alex, who's remotely editing them, have done a nice job with that. And then we also have the driller is around doing, it looks like just a camera, but they're taking videos largely, and Harrison is doing that, so be aware of that. I also hear that there's a NYPA photographer in the house, so there's, this is becoming quite the event, I think. I think I'm gonna let you do sponsors. So this is Christine Hoffer, Executive Director. For the 2 people that raised their hand, if you don't know her, this is Christine. So why don't you come up and talk about sponsors some, and then also about the students coming in. Oh, I forgot to say. So all of the sessions, you can sit down again. All of the sessions were recorded and will be put up as YouTube videos, so whatever was on the screen and set into a microphone, you'd be able to access that later, and all of the slides will also be available for download. If you have a particular set of slides that you urgently need before we get them posted on the website, you can bug us. Like send us an email and say, I would really like a copy of that presentation, and we'll get that out on the earlier side of earlier or later. All right. I think it's, yeah, it's, okay. No. Yeah.
Personally like my fashion glasses better.
I think I would look dorky in those.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, as John said, I'm Christine, and this conference can't happen without all of you. It can't happen without our sponsors, our exhibitors, and our speakers, and most importantly, our attendees. You are the reason that we're here. You're the reason we put this together. But a huge, enormous thank you from everybody at NY-GEO to our sponsors. Con Edison, thank you so much for being our presenting sponsor and spending some time with us this morning. To our friends at NYSERDA for being gold sponsors and really supporting NY-GEO, 24/7, 365, as almost everybody does. And when John says send him an email and he'll answer it, 3 o'clock in the morning he will do that. I will not. To our friends at Climate Master, Climate Control Group for being our silver sponsor. Our friends at Water Furnace for sponsoring a really lovely dinner last night. It was good food, a good time. Our friends from Rototech and the exhibitor mixer and the reason we all have a headache this morning. So thank you very much for that. The Top Jobs Award, GeoStar, again, our friends at Water Furnace for doing that. It's something that started when we first began this conference in 2014 and has gone through. And thank you to everybody that submitted their projects and allow for us to share that. This award is not just about recognition, but it gives us an opportunity to talk about what we do and how we do it and the diversity of what we do in our space. So when we talk about 2027 and we ask you to submit your projects, please do that because we add those to our website and we use them as content when we share to people that are saying, can you do this? I'm like, oh, here's one from 2014, and yes, you can do that. So please, please, please share that information. And then last night we launched the Golden Tricone with our friends from the Geothermal Drillers Association, so thanks for that. Our friends from Train were a bronze sponsor, and they're here exhibiting as well. Yesterday's lunch was brought to us by SRS and Unilux HVAC Industries. Breakfast yesterday was Intertech, and this morning was Turner. I know I needed that coffee this morning. I don't know about the rest of you, because I got a headache because Rototech. Our coffee breaks, this group drinks a lot of coffee, so all throughout the conference we've had coffee, thanks to our friends at Webb, Bosch, and International Construction Equipment. The breaks, more coffee because you guys like to drink a lot of coffee. Versa Profile, Webb again, and our friends from Darcy Solutions. And the driller. So putting this program together is a collaboration with us, B&P Media, and the driller. We really, really appreciate this, and it's something, again, that you can take home, hold on to, read the articles. And Chelsea and the team, we just really appreciate what you do for us. Exhibitors, lots of them. There's 40 exhibitors here. They're here because they have the products and services that we all need to do our jobs to execute and deliver ground source heat pumps and geothermal. So thank you very much for being here. We really, 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 really do appreciate that. Oh, so who's ready for 2027? So put it on your calendars right now, April 24th through the 26th. The 24th will be the pre-conference. We will have a drilling demonstration like we did last year, along with some geothermal site tours. So put that on your calendar right now. I'll try and get the registration launched as soon as possible. And with that, I want to remind everybody that this afternoon, probably around 12:30, we are going to have a group of about 40 students that will be joining us that are currently enrolled in an HVAC workforce development program. This is a collaboration with Con Ed again and their Clean Energy Academy. So we worked with that group to talk about how we can deploy and earn more people working in our space. So anyway, long story conversation, they said, oh, we have all these students, maybe they can come to the conference. I said, that would be brilliant. So later today, there's gonna be a lot of young people that are going to be new to our industry. They did a survey, and of the 40, I would say less than 3 really understood and knew that there was an opportunity to take their HVAC programming into geothermal. So they'll be with us, exhibitors. We've asked them to come and network with you. And just talk to them about the job opportunities within our industry. So thanks for that. And with that, I'm going to give it back to John. I'm going to ask Venetia to stand up 3 times and sit down 3 times.
Yeah, that's my intention.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Before I bring you up, You're going to pull a muscle. Be careful. Just a quick review of the schedule. The schedule's posted. I think folks pretty acclimated around it. It's in the program and then posted outside. And over here, we're going to have thermal exchange and ABC. Business models are going to be in the center track here. And then we've got building the ground source heat pump industry, AKA miscellaneous, over there. So we'll run through that, and I think we're good. So I'm going to bring Venetia up. You can, it's time. And so again, she's a vice president with Con Edison, environmental health and safety, but that's really not, she's mostly a board member with NY-GEO, and that's really what makes her great. And all this background with the governor's office and stuff, it really pales in comparison to her role with us. And with that, I bring you Venetia Lannon.
Thanks, John. I'll take it. Good morning. So as John said, Venetia Lannon, Vice President, Environment, Health, and Safety of Con Edison of New York, and NY-GEO board member. Someone said I look like a general with all my sponsor, exhibitor, but really happy to be here. And Con Edison is proud to be a presenting sponsor of this conference. And I'm actually up here to introduce my colleague, Senior Vice President of Customer Energy Solutions, Vicki, who's our keynote today. But before I introduce Vicki, I just want to tell you a little bit about Con Edison. I'm going to ask by a show of hands how many in the room are Con Edison customers. Yes, exactly. We are your hometown team. Yeah? Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm bonking sorry. Maybe, no, I tried to, okay, all right. So who is Con Edison? Just want to leave you with a couple things about Con Edison. I told you that we're the hometown team, but the first thing that I want to tell you about Con Edison is that we are big. Okay, we are part of one of the world's largest energy systems, and we are one of the country's largest investor-owned utilities. So we are comprised of 3 companies. Not a lot of people know that. So there are 3 companies that make up Con Edison. There's Con Edison of New York, or Ciccone as it's called. For those of you who were here 2 years ago, and you heard Matt Ketchke talk, he's the president of Ciccone, Con Edison of New York. Vicki and I both work for Matt. So Ciccone is really the lion's share of our business. We have 3.6 million electric customers, 3.6 million electric customers. So we provide electricity for all 5 boroughs and Westchester. We have 1.1 million gas customers, so we split the service territory with National Grid. We provide gas to Manhattan, the Bronx, Northern Queens, and National Grid takes the rest of Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. So we have 1.1 million gas customers. A lesser-known sister utility some of you may have heard of in New York State is Orange and Rockland Utility, which provides electric and gas for those counties north of New York City. And those are quite a bit smaller. They have 300,000 electric customers and 130,000 gas customers. They also, little known fact, provide utility services for a portion of New Jersey. So the first thing I want to leave you with is that we are big. We're about 15,000 employees. So that's the first fun fact. The second fun fact is that we are reliable. We're extremely reliable. We're actually 9 times more reliable than the next reliable utility in the country. And in 2023, the Public Service Commission found that those stats actually hold for the state as well. So that means whereas if you are a customer of other utilities in New York State, your electricity will go out about once a year. In our service territory, it will go out once every 9 years on average. And that's not including storms. That's just blue sky day. So that is like next level reliability. So we're big and we're reliable. The next thing I'd tell you about is that we've been doing this for a long time. We celebrated in 2023 our 200th anniversary. 1823 is when we got into this game. The big transition going on then was from whale oil. So we know how to do transitions. And so we've been around a long time. We're the longest continuously traded stock on the New York Stock Exchange. And speaking of stocks, we've delivered dividends to our shareholders 51 years in a row. This makes us what's called a dividend king. We're also a very reliable investment, which gives us ready access to capital markets, which allows us to deliver our projects effectively. So in the Fortune 500, we're number 286. So we're one of the biggest companies in the country by revenue, okay? So we're big, we're reliable, we've been doing this a long time, and the last thing I'll tell you is that we are all in on the clean energy transition. As you'll, I'm sure, hear from Vicki, we walk the talk. I think we are one of the very few utilities that stepped up and opposed the extension of the 100-foot rule, which provides free gas, subsidized gas connections to new services. That just shows our commitment to the clean energy future. So a little bit about Vicki Kuo, and here I'm gonna need to put on my glasses because I keep doing that, sorry. Because her list of responsibilities at Con Edison is quite lengthy. Pretty much anything you guys in this room are interested in, Vicki's in charge of. Anyone at this conference, staff-wise, reports to Vicki. So SVP, Senior Vice President of Customer Energy Solutions, her team works with customers, with policymakers and advocates to shape and achieve New York State's climate goals. So she's responsible for leading the company's, get a load of this laundry list, customer operations, delivery of energy efficiency and demand management, heating and transportation electrification, distributed resources initiatives, rate design and advanced metering infrastructure, AMI, and our non-wires and non-pipeline solutions that support a clean energy future. So Vicki really does it all. And the last thing I'll leave with you with about Vicki, so she has spent all of her career at Con Edison minus a decade, where she worked for a cybersecurity startup. And why that's relevant is because Vicki understands the grit and the kind of persistence that it requires to push into the mainstream and to have that kind of startup spirit, which I think is prevalent for a lot of companies in this room. So Vicki's a perfect speaker for us this morning. We're very privileged to have her here. As you can tell, she's a very busy woman. So please welcome to the stage, Vicki Kuo.
Mic on? Yes. My name is Bill Nowak. I'm a board member of NY-GEO, and I'm going to be conversing with Vicki today. We figured that this was a good way to present information instead of her just talking at you. I am honored today to be sharing this stage with two of the people that I consider leading lights in building decarbonization in New York, and one of those is Venetia Lannon. Venetia was the governor's chief energy advisor back when the geothermal industry was going to be losing its federal tax credits. And NY-GEO President Jens Ponnekow and I contacted her, talked with her, and she immediately grasped the situation, and it was through her work that a series of funding and rebates were set up that basically was a lifeline for the industry at that point. So thank you, Venetia, for that. And in the meantime, the NY-GEO board was lucky to scoop Venetia up, as was Con Edison lucky to get Venetia as well. And we're going to be going back in time a little bit to talk about where things have come from. And in 2014, when NY-GEO was getting started, we made the rounds in Albany. We started talking to utilities in Albany and statewide, and the Public Service Commission. And the Public Service Commission and NYSERDA kind of got what we were talking about right away, but the utilities that we went to, sometimes I felt like they thought we were an invading army from Mars, kind of coming and talking to them. The gas utilities were used to kind of a constant expansion of their empire with full support from the state. And we talked to them and they were kind of like, yeah, we'll get back to you later. The electric utilities, what they were thinking about is more efficient appliances, changing people's light bulbs, and the idea of taking something on that would increase the electric load was kind of foreign to them at that point. And then I got to talk with Vicki at Con Edison, and she was the first person from the utility world that really got building decarbonization and that really felt like, okay, we're going to have some partners in this effort. So just great being with these leading lights as we move forward here. So Vicki, let's go back in time and talk a little bit about what's happened in the time since we've met. What do you think both the geothermal industry and Con Edison as a program administrator have accomplished over the last several years?
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for that extremely generous intro on
I meant it.
some of our meeting. But let me also thank NY-GEO for having me here. It's an honor. It's humbling to be here on stage and talk a little bit about the industry and what we have done together. But before I do that, what's really important is I want to point out those glasses, all right? They are rose-colored, okay? I have a black pair and I have a pair that's rose-colored. And today I specifically picked rose-colored because I think we need to think about things at this particular point in our industry, in our state, looking at glass half full, looking at what's happening with optimism. And that is really important to me, both from what Venetia mentioned, my background. If you worked in a startup environment, and many of you have, you're always doing things against the odds. Right? So you need that optimistic view. You need to have that attitude. You need to have that personality. And I know what's going on right now in the state. There are uncertainties in the country. There are a lot of uncertainties. So I want everyone to know that we should feel optimistic. And we should really be proud of what we have accomplished. And Bill, so as I was thinking about, this morning, I actually, last night, used Copilot and looked at my emails from, about 10 years ago. This is actually less than 10 years ago. So I found an email from late 2020, as we were coming out of the pandemic, and we barely started to visit customers, to start working. And we're trying to struggle with the new safety requirements in that environment, right? They're new, they're uncertain, and we're also setting goals for 2021 internally for my team, especially for the geothermal team that was working for me. And one of the goals we were setting was, how many geothermal homes do you think we could do in 2021? All right, this is late 2020, right? And there's a lot of back and forth, and we're pushing each other, and we settled on 60 homes. And my team was uncomfortable with 60. They really wanted 50. And so I said, let's try for 60, you're allowed to fail. All right, no one's going to take anything out of your salary increase if you fail, but let's try for 60. So that year, we ended up doing 68.
All right, surpassed the goal.
We passed the goal, right? So that's something to celebrate, but it's very modest. And so what do we have today? Right now in our pipeline, both geothermal, residential, and commercial that's, finished construction, in the process of construction, or we have committed incentives to, is 712, okay? So we've come quite a long way, you know, and of the 712, there are 22 really large commercial and multifamily buildings. So they're not even the exact same metric, right?
Right.
And there's, you know, these large homes, the large.
It's irritating, John.
Okay. So these really large projects, they're not just marquee demonstration projects, you know, that somebody does one and cannot replicate. I mean, these are projects that we have the tallest residential building, right? All electric, the JP Morgan Chase new headquarters is all electric. I think it's like 55 stories or 70 stories. I mean, I have some of the numbers. We also have, and one of my favorite projects is the Alafia House. Do I have people here in the audience that was part of the Alafia House funding or development? There we go, the Con Ed people. I saw some of the, you know, the exhibitors out there, like Shark and NYSERDA. Why it's my favorite? It's right here in Brooklyn, all right, near JFK. It's an affordable housing, all electric, right? 500 units for phase one, geothermal, solar on the roof, okay? And it uses—
Good combination.
Great combination. And it uses the really state-of-the-art technology, like wastewater, you know, heat pump for hot water. I saw Shark's display out there. It took a long time for us to get that working, and couldn't have done it without working with NYSERDA, working with the financing organization, working with the engineering firms, and the entire geothermal community. So we're doing this, and that's not the only one. I think there are at least 10 more projects like that, and multiple phases that is in the Con Edison service territory. And my numbers might even be dated because it is actually growing really fast.
They say if you can do it in New York, you can do it anywhere. And
You took the word right out of my mouth. It is absolutely that message, and I'm just super excited about what's happening.
Great. I wanted to talk a little bit about the policy changes that we have seen. And as Venetia pointed out, Con Ed has been probably the most progressive utility in New York State between supporting some of the initiatives, not opposing some of the initiatives the way some of the other utilities or fossil fuel interests have. But when you think about it, when we started up in 2014, it was a foreign idea that you would electrify the heating sector. And the policy landscape basically said that you couldn't use any funding to do that kind of thing. If you pulled in electric customer funding, it had to go from reducing kilowatts in their appliances. If you pulled in gas company funding, it had to go to gas efficiency. And that has changed. At this point, transitioning to efficient electrification is a keystone of New York State's policy, whereas at that point it wasn't even thought about. In 2019, New York passed the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, one of the most far-reaching climate laws in the state and practically in the world as we know it. In New York City, Local Law 97 passed, which really ratchets up building decarbonization. And is something that Con Ed in particular has to deal with and is really helping to move along. We passed a geothermal tax credit in the early 20s, and then last year that tax credit was increased from $5,000 to $10,000 and made refundable for low and moderate income folks and folks in disadvantaged communities. The All-Electric Building Act passed, so new buildings, as soon as the lawsuits are finished, are going to need to be all-electric in New York State. And as Venetia mentioned, the repeal of the 100-foot subsidy that made gas lines free for folks. So there's been really enormous policy changes that certainly New York-GEO and Con Edison have been part of, and it's been great to see that progression. So relative to geothermal technology, it has moved from promising to proven at this point. And what have you learned so far from Con Ed's viewpoint, and what do we need to learn over the next several years to keep moving things forward?
I think you're right. I mean, we have definitely moved beyond proving that it can work. It is right now at a point where we have to really think about scale. And whenever I think about scale, I think about standardization. I think about driving down cost. I think about education. The other thing that we should really talk about is we need to start thinking about rate design, right? And here's another shout out to the New-York-GEO and many of the New-York-GEO board members, or especially the early, starters. I remember in one of our rate cases, we decided to pilot a new rate. The rate was known as, internally at Con Edison, by rate people, known as SC1 Rate 4. That is very catchy. I think we are marketing it as the steady use rate.
Yes.
That is really designed for steady use, right? And it is extremely useful for heat pump customers. We have done some analysis and have already seen for heat pump customers, air source heat pump customers on average save about 10% on their bill if they adopt this rate. Geothermal customers save 15% on this bill. Right? So I ask everyone here, as you do projects, as you're working with customers, please help us make this rate aware, make them aware of this. Please help them sign up for this rate. We actually give a 1-year price guarantee, so customers have nothing to lose, okay? And I neglect to say, I mentioned 2 of its names. There's also a name that I go by. I call this rate the Bob Wyman rate. All right, I don't know if Bob is here. I saw him earlier. And some of the younger folks goes, who, why, Bob's passion and advocacy helped us design this rate, and we're so proud of it, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
It's hopefully a model that other utilities can look at. And the advantage for New York, for geothermal customers is very clear. So let me get back to, some other things, right? We talked about standardization. We talked about, we need to really make it cookie cutters so we could keep doing it. We also need more drilling technology, and this is maybe more specific to the Con Edison service territory. We're very densely populated, and it's not the same as other geographical regions, right?
You can't dig a trench in the back 40 in New York City.
Exactly. So how do we get it to a point where the customers right here in Brooklyn with the brownstone can still adopt geothermal and not do something else, not give up, not be left behind. And I think I've seen some breakthrough, I've heard some breakthrough technologies. So more investment, more, kind of a focus in that area, I think is really important for the next few years.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the last 5 years, it was New Efficiency New York was the program, and it provided a good amount of funding for initiatives like geothermal. In the coming 5 years, it's energy efficiency and building electrification. And there is $5 billion set aside in that for all the utilities and the agencies to work with. What do you see as success? How are you thinking you're going to measure success under the energy efficiency and building electrification plan?
Yeah, we here at Con Edison, you give us a goal and we will meet the goal. We'll do whatever we can. And I see the Con Edison table smiling. You guys are meeting the goals, all right? This is what's been drilled to us. This is why we have a really reliable system, energy system. We meet the moment. But a more nuanced answer in that is, certain things make sense, right? Like, as we do geothermal, as we, electrify buildings, building envelopes really matter. It is something that we really need to focus on. I see so many places where if your home is not comfortable unless you really get the building envelope tight, right? It's the right thing to do. Coupling that technology with the right rate so that we could help our customers really save money, affordability for all customer segment, and especially low, medium income customer is really important, okay? And our grid is aging, right? We're a 200-year-old company, and we're the first. Thomas Edison started his experiment right here on Pearl Street. So what does it also come with? It's an aging infrastructure. We recently actually found a couple of meters. This is literally in February. Even after our AMI deployment, we found a couple of meters that was from 1939, okay? And so, we need to upgrade the grid, and that costs money. And we also have the affordability concern, right? So how do we manage modernizing the grid and efficiently electrifying at the same time? That means everything we do should be thoughtful. Helping to manage the peak, which geothermal is an amazing tool that really helps to electrify and manage that peak in a very tight way, is really important.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you're thinking of scaling, and you've got 5 years under the plan, but think about the next 6 months, the next 12 months, bold steps that you're thinking of in terms of moving forward.
6 months. The way that the new energy efficiency and building electrification, the PSC order is set up, is challenging us to work more regionally. Right? Working regionally means collaboration across many different stakeholders. National Grid, Con Edison, the contractor community, and then looking at a lot of the policies and goals that we need to hit. So I think coming together, come up with innovative way, and at the same time driving down cost, right? So how do we come together with the innovative way to market, think about customer experience, make it more streamlined, and then adopting new technology and scale at the same time is really complex.
Sure.
So that is what I think is 6 months, and I really want to get the program on the street. One thing I've learned is you can't design everything in a conference room. You really need to design things that are nimble and that allow you to iterate. So how do we get something that we collectively say, this is a good starting point? And then how do we commit to, we're gonna be nimble, we're gonna learn lessons. It's not going to be perfect, and we will change so that and perfect it. So that's pretty much for this part of the business.
Thank you very much. And I believe our time is up. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Ladies and gentlemen, Vicki Quill.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
All right, moving right along. So Keith Hayes is going to get our panel up.